There are three priorities for a lot of executives, especially in the TMT space. First being, how do we defend the core and expand the core of existing businesses? The second being, how do we expand into new places or new opportunities? And the third being, how do we drive that from a commercial strategy perspective? And I think this is critical because TMT has been disrupted more than any other sector out there this past year. AI capabilities are driving LLMs to be able to develop software and code faster than ever before. Existing software companies may cease to exist. We don't know exactly who or when. We have a lot of hypotheses. Horizontal is more susceptible than vertical SaaS. Companies that are highly integrated in workflows are less susceptible than ones who can be, easily replicated or commoditized. So in addition to SaaSpocalypse, telco companies are seeing a ton of additional connectivity commoditization. So the amount of connectivity and the amount of people using mobile phones and accessing networks is increasing, but telco's share of that value chain is staying the same or even decreasing over time. So being able to say, hey, how do we capture more of that value chain as a telecom is really important. And then on the media side, AI is allowing people to do a ton of things all over the place, right? It's not just movies, TV, radio. It is YouTube, social media, TikTok, all the different streaming services. And I guess the opposite of consolidation is happening. Disaggregation of content channels is forcing media companies to figure out, how do we defend our historical core. The second area is being able to increase the new opportunity areas by either build, buy, partner with other either industry verticals or other companies in the TMT space. So we see telecommunications companies partnering with large cloud providers in order to do interesting things like make, edge use cases a lot faster, because they're able to do higher compute, more reach than ever before. We see telcos really expounding like non-terrestrial networks, which are satellites orbiting the globe, and being able to provide network and connectivity access that we've never seen before because it's off the ground. Anyone can access it when it's in a satellite. And we see software companies partnering with solutions and service providers or becoming broader platforms in order to maintain kind of a bigger moat around the solutions and the services they're offering. And then all of that is predicated on, hey, we need to fundamentally change our business model, actually both in the first and the second cases. Like if you are going to transition away from subscription software that is user-based because agentic AI is taking away the need for users, you're going to need to switch to something else, like usage-based models or outcome-based models. Many companies are saying, hey, if we're going to go on outcomes, like I want to see you prove that your software works before I make bigger investments. And so the onus becomes not on the sales team to sell a big software deployment up front, but rather customer success teams being able to increasingly prove value and sell capabilities to other parts of the business over time. Being able to have an organization that knows what business and commercial model to move to, but also to have the teams and infrastructure to support that are the top of everyone's minds now. And the ability for teams to do that on their own is a huge challenge because they've never had to shift or transition nearly as fast as they're having to now. I think the reality is that companies are having to move quicker than ever before. Companies that I talked to a year ago where we were encouraging them to consider new commercial models were very hesitant, right? They understand how monumental that those changes are, but when they look at their business and the prospect of them maybe even ceasing to exist in the future, those plans have accelerated. And the number of companies that we've worked with that are saying, hey, we need to become not just a product, but a platform. We need to have a partnership with the big hyperscaler marketplaces, because that's where people are doing their business, is becoming increasingly popular. And it's hard to do that when you have kind of no precedent in thinking through those models. But we've worked with many companies in order to make those shifts and in order to identify what are the right go-to-market strategies for our plans moving forward. The thing that has been in the news the most over the last week is Anthropic's call for AI companies to slow down on its AI development because of the ramifications that it has on technology. So I would say the paper that they outlined kind of clearly talks about when AI started, it was developers developing code to do AI, not a lot of uptake at that point. Then the next layer was, hey, we are interacting with chatbots, and then chatbots provide us answers to what questions that we're asking. The third layer is then agents developing code on behalf of a person, and that increased productivity. I mean, depending on what company you're talking about, anywhere from like 10 to 40% up to like magnitudes. Like you hear stories of one-person startups starting their own full software company on their own. And then we now are at the age of autonomous agents doing work on behalf of people, right? These are agentic agents doing things independently, but the human is still in the loop. They predict that the next phase is agents improving on itself, which means that there is no human in the loop. And the ability to control that and make sure that there's safety and guardrails in place, honestly, is really scary, right? Like, how do you control that? You honestly kind of can't. And so that's why they're asking the world to be thoughtful about how AI development happens moving forward. And it's really, really interesting because you want to make sure that obviously you're pushing technology forward, but at the same time, like, this is getting to potentially dangerous places. It could plateau, but no one actually believes that's going to be the case. It could keep scaling at the rate that it's going, which is driving compound productivity. Or it could just start to run itself. But it could also have a lot of implications for how businesses are run moving forward, how government entities are run moving forward, and making sure that we're cognizant of that and adjusting to it as quickly as we can. The first word is SaaSpocalypse. It's the apocalypse of industries because of increasing AI adoption. The second word is both uncertainty, but also opportunity. Because there's so much uncertainty in the world and change happening, it means there is a lot of opportunity for companies to fundamentally be different than how they were before. I would say the last word is transformation. More companies are willing to be different than how they were, more so than I've ever seen in my last 15 years doing consulting. So SaaSpocalypse, uncertainty, opportunity, and transformation.